Phylum Arthropoda. What's that? Arthropods. Arthropods? What's that? Well, if you want to know what arthropods are, well, you can find them easily. Just go outside and look around. You'll find some arthropods. They're all over the place. They're everywhere. You can just listen and you'll probably hear arthropods around you. You might not even have to leave the house to see some arthropods. Well, so the thing about arthropods, though, there are so many kinds of them that it's hard to explain what they are. They come in so many different kinds. So, well, let's just start by considering the name arthropod. Pod means foot. Arthro means segmented foot. Well, if you have segmented feet, well, then you would be an arthropod. So segmented, well, it's got different parts. The foot has different parts to it. It's kind of complicated. The feet, well, you'd have to get a pretty close look at them to really see that. If you get a big one, you can tell. But, well, how about this? How about if we just I'll explain what arthropods are in this way by first explaining about what is almost an arthropod. So there are some things that are very similar to arthropods, but they're not quite, they don't quite qualify. So in this way then, what's almost an arthropod? Well, that kind of tells us what is an arthropod. Okay, so these are not arthropods, for example, but they're pretty close. Well, here we see what's called the velvet worm. And you see how it's crawling on a leaf. We have this creepy crawly, pretty small. They live on land. And you'll see a video later in class of these little things. That's not an arthropod. It's considered, well, about the next closest thing to an arthropod, along with another kind of animal called a tardigrade, or sometimes called a water bear. These, as you can see there, well, they don't have as many legs on them as a velvet worm. They have, count them, how many legs on these things? Well, you good look, you'll see they are 8 legs. They have 8 legs. And well, if you look at the feet, well, they've got these kind of funny claw-looking things. Well, those feet are just not segmented enough. They're just not complicated enough feet. They don't qualify as arthropods. Yeah, and this velvet worm, well, those legs, they just kind of stop at sort of a little stump. Yeah, they don't qualify, but they're real similar to an arthropod. So a velvet worm then, well, there are hundreds of kinds of them, and they are a phylum, in themselves. Phylum, velvet wormies. And you've got tardigrades. They too are their own phylum, and there are over 1,000 species of those, but those are really small. The biggest of them are just big enough for you to barely see them. So, that's why you didn't know about those. All right, well, so how about arthropods then? What is that? Well, there you have it in Hangul. That's what they are. They come in many kinds. Well, what makes it an arthropod and not an arthropod? Well, for one thing, arthropods have a, well, not just segmented foot, but they have a segmented body to them. So the design of them, it's, well, they repeat. So just now in that velvet worm, for example, it's got 2 legs, then it repeats, and it's got another 2 legs, and it just keeps repeating. It just lines up, and that kind of thing. So if you've got that, well, there are quite a few animals, actually, that just repeat like this. Well, arthropods repeat, and they have segmented feet as well. But here's another thing, though. This is what arthropods have that those others did not have, and that is an exoskeleton. Exoskeleton. Yeah, so exo means outside. Mhm. So, well, we have a skeleton, you know, bones. It's on the inside. So we have an inside skeleton. Well, an arthropod has a exoskeleton. Mhm. But think about this now. Uh, our skeleton here, this is a good solid structure you can build on that you can make something big. Well, arthropods with their solid outside structure, well, they can get kind of big, not as big, but they've got that solid structure, you know. Except for them, there's a problem. There's one problem. If you've got your hard shell, if you've got your skeleton on the outside, well then, how do you grow? How can you grow? Soft on the inside, hard on the outside. How can you grow? Well, this is something that arthropods do. They molt. You're looking at a cicada here, and it just crawled out of itself, out of its exoskeleton. And here we have a fresh, soft one, bigger than before. And within a few hours, it'll be hard, all hard on the outside again. And it does this again and again and again in order to grow. And you know how big cicadas get, huh? Yeah, so they molt. Our arthropods do this. Well, you could say that, say, a snake molts, it sheds its skin, but wow, this is, I mean, that's different. I mean, look at this.